It's been a minute, but your boy Papa Shro is back with the Papa Shro Knows podcast. EDJ joining us. We got Chiefs football, Mizzou football, a little bit of hot stove baseball to talk about on the podcast this Monday. So make sure you lock in, hit that like button if you enjoyed the podcast, subscribe to the channel or wherever you get your podcasting needs from. Anyways, let's jump into the talk with EDJ. EDJ, welcome back to the Papa Shro Knows podcast. We're back. We're here. We might be a little bit sad. It's been a rough week. I guess Mizzou ended up better, but we're here to talk some Chiefs football. We're here to talk some NFL, Mizzou football. We'll get into a little bit of baseball at the end as well. Is the Chiefs season over? We are going to cover, as well as, how disappointing 1 to 10 was the Mizzou season. And finally, we're going to get into some of that hot stove action from Major League Baseball over the offseason. EDJ, welcome back. Happy Thanksgiving, my man. How was your holiday?
Well, happy Thanksgiving to you and your family. It was good, a typical Thanksgiving, and we're ready for Christmas as always. But it's been a lackluster, disappointing year for a lot of reasons that we'll get into. But it's we're ready to roll and get back on the potting trail. So let's get into it.
Yes, sir. So first things first, I want to ask you, this kind of just popped up into my head, but goes with the theme of with the Chiefs. Do you see a moment where it went off the rails?
I think it went off the rails a couple of years ago.
Okay.
I think it went off the rails, but we ended up winning 2 Super Bowls out of it and making 3 in a row. The dysfunction of the offense and dysfunction of the coaching has really become an issue. And that's pretty prevalent in what we've seen this year, dropping every single one-score game except for one. When last year they set the NFL record with 12 straight, if not, I think more than that, but 12-0 in one-score games. There we go. They've won one of them, and they're 1-6 in those games.
Yeah.
At some point, that was going to come back to haunt the Chiefs, and it looks like this was the year to do it. And the unfortunate part is the Chiefs are the 5th best offense in football. If you look at them statistically, they're miles ahead of where they were last year. Yeah. Patrick is playing some pretty good football. And the offense looks decent, except for the fact that they can't score in the red zone. Too many penalties on killer drives in big moments, not just, the first quarter. In the fourth quarter when they need to score and they get 2 holding penalties in one drive. It just huge mistakes that the Chiefs make that are causing them these football games, and this is where they're at. And we saw this last year. We saw this 2 years ago. Sloppy play will end up getting you sloppy results, and it's finally time for the Chiefs to get sloppy results. It's unfortunate, but this is something that, if the Chiefs did not address it correctly, would turn its ugly head, and it has. It's not good. And it's here, and I think a lot of people, including you and I, have said this a couple of times in the couple of years, hey, it's great that we've won these Super Bowls, but we have to be careful, because if we're not, we're a couple losses away from not being in any of those, so at some point it was going to turn, and it kind of has. Do I think it's a player issue and personnel issue? Kind of. Do I think it's more of a coaching issue? Yeah, I do. I think there's a lot of, and we'll get into this more, but I think a lot of what the defense is, it's a lot of younger guys, it's a lot of 7-round draft picks, 6-round draft picks, not necessarily top tier picks that are on that defense, and it's a very tough defense to learn. It's a Spagnuolo defense that is smart, that is very edgy at times, that will take risk when risk aren't necessarily statistically given advantage to. So I don't know if it's just, man, this is really confusing, we don't know what we're doing, but it sure looks like it. It just looks like it in the secondary. They have no idea what they're doing half the time. I mean, Trent McDuffie on CeeDee Lamb was a disaster the other night.
I don't think it was that bad.
I
don't think it was good. I don't think it was good.
No, it was not good.
It was not good. But I don't think it was as bad as people were making it out to be. I also saw a few fans that were off the rails calling Trent McDuffie McTrash. So
I'm not going to go that far,
Right.
but it was not good. We'll start
Yeah,
that way.
it wasn't great.
Um,
Yeah.
you know, but on the other side, George Pickens did whatever he wanted.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of glaring issues that we had last year and the year before that have just shown up. And I mean, this year's league is weird. I mean, the best team in football right now is the New England Patriots, 10-2.
Yeah,
If
who
you
was
would have
seeing
put
on
that on my
Monday Night
bingo card,
Football?
I would have said, yeah, I would have
Yeah.
said you're absolutely wrong. The Broncos are about to be 10-2 potentially. So
Yeah.
it's been a very odd year in general, but all this stuff that we kind of am hot about and worried about and warned about has kind of come true.
Yeah, I do agree with you. I mean, I think that the Chiefs cannot play complimentary football in 2025, like at all. Whenever one unit is on, the other unit is off. When the offense is on, the defense is off, and when the defense is on, the offense is off, and when either side's on, the special teams is off. I mean, how many holding penalties have we seen over the last few weeks from Dave Tobe's unit? I mean, that special teams has not been good. It's been rough, and all around. But between play calling on both sides of the ball, I think that the defense gets too much flack from my perspective. And this may just be I'm a defensive guy, and I like watching the defense. But I mean, I feel like how many games have I seen I don't know, the talk on Twitter go to, man, the defense just can't hold up. Well, yeah, when your offense has went on back-to-back 3-and-out drives and your defense gives up one score, I think that's pretty damn good. You're averaging 1 for 3 or 2 for 3 on stopping them. I don't know. I mean, like I said, it's complimentary football cannot be played with this team. You can't just rely on Patrick Mahomes to sort it out himself and go and get the job done like they've been able to do in other years, nor should they have to. I think that the Kingdom documentary pointed out that really well. I think it was D-Hop that mentioned that a couple times. I might have said that on this podcast 1 or 5 times since the Kingdom documentary came out. It goes to show, even in that locker room. I mean, what Nagy said at the beginning of the year that the media keyed in on, and I this is one thing about this. I'll get to my full point here in just a moment. But calling RPO, or not RPOs, but run plays, breather plays for Pat. That's a run play. That is not a breather play. This is establish the run. What are we talking about, man? And you're probably laughing because you know me. I like that old school football. Run the ball, have good defense. I loved those Steelers teams when we were young in the mid 2000s. Of let's run the rock, let's dominate with the defense. But this coaching staff, and this isn't to be anything super negative, but it is where we're at right now. Andy Reid is one of the greatest coaches to ever walk this earth. One of the greatest football coaches ever. I don't have as many glowing things to say about Matt Nagy, but Steve Spagnuolo might be the greatest defensive coordinator to ever walk this earth football-wise. I mean, there's definitely some guys up there you could put up there, but as a pure just defensive coordinator, obviously as a head coach it didn't work out, a couple of tough situations he was in, but as a defensive coordinator, I mean, he stopped the undefeated Brady team in the Super Bowl. He's led this Chiefs defense out of, I feel like, what a lot of the league sees as nobodies. I mean, look what L'Jarius Sneed went for in the trade. Charvarius Ward's been thrown around team to team over the last few years. This coaching staff in that building has a holier than thou mindset, I think, and the Super Bowl should have ended that immediately. I think they feel like they can do whatever they want to do, and it will eventually work out. And I think you kind of hit on that earlier of just saying, where it went off the rails of, well, when is it going to work out? And I think that's the mentality of just, we're so good, we're going to keep doing what we do, and it will work eventually. That is not how this league works at all. It's never worked that way. You start doing something, you find success with it, and people figure out how to stop it, and you got to find the new way to beat these defenses or offenses or, whatever we're talking about. And I think that the Chiefs offensively just have not figured that out at this point. I mean, and I don't think they will. I mean, Andy's going to continue to do what he wants to do, but we're in a league right now that I think it is prime for running the ball. Look at the Rams and what they've done this season of just sticking true to the run. They've got 2 elite receivers, some solid tight ends in there, and you've got one of the, I don't know. Is Matt Stafford one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time? I don't know if. I mean, whatever. We can flirt with that topic, but at the same time, you have a vet. Like a solid vet that's been doing this for 20 years, in the pocket, and seeing everything, and that's why that offense is working so well. Seattle has done a pretty good job with that as well. Sam Darnold has done a good. I mean, last few weeks have been rough for Darnold, I think, but that's what they've modeled. And you have so many defenses that are coming out on first down. They're running nickel on first down. 20 years ago in the league, you never would have saw that. And now you're seeing some of these teams go back to that old school football. Let's line up. Let's come out 13 personnel. Let's run some I formation. Maybe we'll throw a fullback out there. And Andy kept a fullback on the roster until 2 years ago. And I still think that could be a viable option. I don't know, man. I'm getting on I guess my soapbox of what I've been really thinking the last few weeks and not recording and stuff. So
Yeah, no, I hear you, and I agree with a lot of what you're saying. It's a comicosm of Andy doing what he wants and nobody doing anything about it.
yeah,
And at the end of the day, I think we all appreciate Andy and we'll love Andy forever. Um, but somebody's got to at some point say, Andy, that's not a good idea. You
yeah,
know, and I think what frustrated Chiefs fans about EB so much was the fact that he would do that.
yeah,
He would say, Andy, that's a bad idea. We're not going to do that. But Matt Nagy doesn't do that.
no,
He's keeping his job, and in the NFL, you want to keep a job, so I don't blame him for it. But again, I think we talked about this before we went on the air. It's very blatantly obvious when Andy's calling the game and when Matt's calling the game. It's two completely different philosophies. It's two completely different styles of driving the ball down the field. We saw it in the beginning of the Dallas game. Those first two drives, Matt did not say a word. Matt was not in the huddles. Andy had his play menu up. He had the serious eyes on. It was Andy Reid's call. Every single play was Andy Reid's call. So are they splitting? Or is Matt the offense coordinator, but Andy says, let me handle the first two drives? Because obviously there's a miscommunication on, okay, we like this guy's play style better, or we like this guy's play style better, but somebody's is obviously better. And I'm going to give Andy the benefit of the doubt on that one because he's won 3 Super Bowls and is probably the second, third best coach of all time.
yeah. I
So,
agree.
it's just frustrating. It's okay, who's in charge here? I think is the main thing that we need to look at as Chiefs fans. Who's really in charge here? Is it Andy? Is it Clark? Is it Brett? Is it Matt? Who's in charge here? I think that's a big issue that the Chiefs have. I think you can kind of tell how they interact with each other on the sidelines now, how they talk to each other in the locker room. It just kind of seems like, yeah, you're not really in charge, or so and so's in charge, or hey, this week it's Andy, or this week it's Pat, or next week it's Travis. Nobody knows, and it just kind of seems like who's driving the bus. We'll use Rex Hudler's analogy of who's driving the bus today.
No, I
It's
don't.
clearly nobody knows. You know what I mean?
I really like that point because I think you are kind of right. I think you are really onto something with that because it is kind of just like a conglomerate, right? And even in the Kingdom documentary, we saw that we had players with the owner, with the coach, and everybody's just kind of, happy, hunky dory, which, everything has been smooth sailing, right? But now that we see some rocky times over the last, year, essentially, I mean, last year was not fun. I don't think that anyone had just a wonderful time last year in all those one-score games. Hard-fought victories. Got all the way back to the Super Bowl. Couldn't get it done. But I think there's no real... I don't want to say there's no drive because I think... And maybe with a lot of the team, because this is one thing that I really keyed in on when I was watching the Broncos game. And, man, the Broncos and Colts game, I had to watch both of those games on a plane. It was terrible. Worst experience ever. Especially watching how the Chiefs have been playing the last couple of weeks. And so, but sitting there watching that game, it's like Hollywood Brown. He catches that pass, cuts back inside while he's on the sideline. It was either in the last 2 minutes of, I think, the first half. And now the clock's running. And it's like you could have easily just got out of bounds, stopped the clock. He gets up, he's laughing, ha ha ha. You know, like, oh, my bad, ha ha ha. And Travis Kelce, one right through his hands, oh, ha ha ha, my bad. Everybody's laughing, having a great time. It's not producing results. Get angry. What is wrong with these people out here on the field? And like you said, then you see Pat close up, and he's like the only one concerned. Everybody's like, "Oh man, we've been there, done that." You know, like there's nothing to strive for. Last year, the three-peat was there to strive for, right? And now this year, it's just kind of like, hey, we've done it all, and you know, if we win another Super Bowl, we're that damn good. We're gonna come out and beat you, and it's not translating to wins at all. Going back to the coaching real quick, because this is one thing I wanted to hit on, is Noel Williams and the fact that he is nowhere to be found amongst the defense all of a sudden. Snaps at cornerback, week 11, 0. Week 12, 0. Week 13, 7. So he got some on Thanksgiving. I'd assume that's just because it's a Thursday game. Maybe some guys needed some more rest, so he got put in there a little bit more. You're talking about a guy that was at week 2 against the Eagles, was the best graded corner in all of PFF for the whole week. What are we doing? Like, and me personally, I love Chamari Connor's game. Chamari Connor does what he needs to do. It is not Chamari Connor's fault that he gets thrown in there at nickelback and in coverage and all these silly things that they want him to do that he has shown us he cannot do. But you know what he's really good at? He's really good at playing like kind of a pseudo linebacker position where he can kind of bridge between safety and linebacker in that hybrid spot of, oh, maybe it's, 1st and 10 and we think these guys are going to, pass, but we got to stay true to the run. Chamari Connor, he's right there. He can blitz. He can come in on a run fit. He's a great tackler. But part of that, he was part of the loss against Dallas, especially. That play was on him. Right before we started recording, I saw the film breakdown as my light goes out, or a film breakdown of, or the all 22 of that, the touchdown that put Dallas up after it was 21-20. Chiefs were up. Then Dallas gets that touchdown to go up 28-21. It was all on Chamari Connor. Chamari Connor was there on his man, and then he dove down to try to get Dak, where Dak wasn't even really trying to run in his direction. He needs to stay on, his guy. Dak got him to pull off. Easy touchdown.
Yeah, it's kind of mind-boggling, when you talk about how good this defense was at one point, just from a standpoint of pure coverage. It seemed almost impossible to push the ball down the field against them at one point. I think the biggest elephant in the room is how bad Chris Jones has been. He's basically been non-existent.
The whole defensive line has been non-existent.
The whole defensive line, exactly. Yeah, Korofskas has been non-existent. That's not a good look, bro, especially after you both got paid. Yeah. So and they're over on the sideline buddy. It's like, well, okay, could you make a tackle, please? And you can hug all you want. And they're both great players, but if you both just got paid and you're both statistically irrelevant, then you kind of need to figure it out. It doesn't make any sense for you to be as good as you are and then get paid all that money and then just kind of be like, the Chiefs fans have seen that before. Have you ever heard of a guy called Larry Johnson? I'm going to get paid. Oh, I forgot how to run the football all of a sudden. Let's not start that trend where, let's get paid. Well, let's forget how to play football now. You got to play the game correctly. Nick Bolton is still playing at a high level. He got paid, so you have to figure out who you are as a team. And honestly, some of these guys, if they have to go, they have to go. I think we're at that point to where, is there a clause in somebody's contract to where if we can get a good trade for them, do we take a swing on it? I think a lot of people, if there's a clause in Chris Jones' contract and you told a Chiefs fan, hey, if we trade Chris Jones and we get a couple of first round, well, probably not a couple. If we get a first round pick out of him at this point, would you take it? I don't think anyone would say no.
I don't think anyone
You
would be
know,
willing to give up a first-round pick for Chris Jones at this
well, that
point.
I was being hopeful, but
I mean, yes.
it's yeah, but I don't think anyone would say no. I just don't think you can look at Chris Jones and be like, man, I'm so glad we paid him that money right now. That's just so great. And Tony Romo comes on CBS every week and tells you Chris Jones is one of the best defensive interior players in football. It's like, are you sure?
So okay, real quick, just to that point, just because
Mhm.
and I do see where you're coming from with this, but my thing with Chris Jones is he's the leader, and two, when he does, when he's playing on, he is still one of the best interior pass rushers in the NFL. He's still one of the best players in the NFL, I do believe, when he wants to be. But he does take a lot of plays off. Pass rush grade is still at 86.2 per PFF right now. But I do think that in those moments, and then it becomes are those moments worth what he's getting paid? Because when they're bringing everybody and it's a 3rd and 9, 95 is the first guy you see breaking through every single time. And so it's one of those things. It's just like, is it worth it? I don't know, because if they could get a first round out of him, I don't think it's necessarily would be a bad deal. Would somebody, pay a first round for Chris Jones and his salary at this point? I doubt it. Maybe somebody that really needs an interior lineman. But then if that were to happen? I know we're kind of going down a rabbit hole now, but like, what does that say about the Chiefs? How competitive are the Chiefs? Because without Chris Jones on that defensive line is nothing. And it is what it is. When you look at, I'm going to read you off everybody on this team and where they rank all together on PFF. Ashton Gelati, rookie, 81st out of 112. Charles Omenihu, 102 out of 112. Mike Dana, 71 out of 112. This is just the defensive line. Then where'd we go with Chris Jones? Jerry Tillery, another interior lineman, 92 out of 128 out of defensive interior. Derek Nottie, 124 of 128. Mike Pennell, which I don't know. Derek Nottie is what he is on rundowns. Mike Pennell, I think, is a lot better, which he's 66 of 128 this year. And then you go to a little bit higher grades with Chris Jones, 38th of 128, and then Karlaftis is ranked at 25th out of 112 edge rushers. So, I mean, even just looking at where they place on the grades, it's not good. At least linebacker-wise, you've got Leo Chanel, who is 14th of 83. Drew Tranquil is 20th. Nick Bolton, 27th.
27th.
Out of 83 linebackers.
See, and here's my thing about PFF. Pat Mahomes at one point was the 13th best quarterback.
Yeah.
This year.
Yeah.
I mean, come on. So
now, PFF, I think, is more of a guideline than especially when you start talking about, where they rank with everybody. Like, I don't know. I completely agree with you on PFF, although I do really like using it just to, it gives you a little bit of an idea at least. If you knew nothing about a team, right, you start kind of looking around at different grades. But at the same time, PFF doesn't do the greatest job of when it comes to, especially if we're talking about top 10. I'm not going to PFF for a top 10 debate.
No. Well, I mean, I guess the biggest question is, and I think we kind of outlined it before we started, is can we turn this around? Is it too late?
Is the season over, EDJ?
If they lose to the Texans, it's over.
Well, absolutely.
And it's not like it's wide open right now anyway.
Right.
You got to beat the Texans. You got to win out. So is it over today? No. Is it over if they lose next week? Yes. So
how do you feel right now today? Do you feel, yes, the Chiefs will still be in the playoffs when we get to January? Right now, I'll kind of set the scene for you. You got Pittsburgh at 6-6, Houston at 7-5 in front of them, and then you have Buffalo and Indianapolis at 8-4. Honestly, the Chiefs' best chance to get in right now is for Indy to collapse, because at least if you get back in line with Indy, you have the win over Indy to push ahead of them. You go head-to-head against Houston, but anyone else, there's really nobody else. I mean, maybe the Chargers at 8-4 if you split the series. I mean, they're going to have to split with them either way. But I don't know how that works out. I don't think the Chiefs have a great divisional record, if that's what it goes to after you split head-to-head matchups. But other than that, I mean, they've lost to everybody. They've lost to Jacksonville, which I guess won't matter at this point. So the Indy win was huge, like even bigger now on the other side. But anyways, today, right now, how do you feel? They're in the playoffs in January or no?
I kind of feel like they're like when you were a little kid looking under the door, the crack of the door when the door was shut. You know, they're just outside that door to where, hey, I might be able to sneak in here. Probably not, but again, you got to beat the Texans. The Colts have not looked good, and it kind of showed in that Chiefs game that they don't really know what they're doing. They had a couple of different plays that were really confusing and going for it on certain situations and not going for it on certain situations. I think the Colts have an identity crisis. You have probably one of the best players in the world right now, and you're just not using him for whatever reason. I don't understand that. I agree with you. I think if the Colts collapse, which it looks like they might, because I mean, how far can you really get with the offense that they have?
I think Daniel Jones isn't that guy, but I think he's good enough to get them there if they stay behind Jonathan Taylor.
Yeah, he's playing the Alex Smith role.
He's absolutely.
He's managing it enough to where they can get the job done, but I doubt they'll win a Super Bowl. Watching them play us, they had that game in hand.
I doubt they'll win a playoff game.
Right. It was bad coaching, and they gave up like 300 yards in the second half. So I don't foresee them being that big of a threat. Buffalo, watching them play, I mean, we all know how I feel about Buffalo. We all know how you feel about Buffalo. I don't buy it. Never have, never will. Until he raises a Super Bowl trophy, I'll never buy it. Trying to think who else you mentioned. The Texans.
You got Houston and Pittsburgh.
I mean, the Texans is a hell of a defense. They got a good defense. Pittsburgh, we saw them play. I think their best shot of the year was against the Colts. I think they're kind of pretty much done. And they looked not interested in all in this game tonight or earlier today. You can tell Aaron's pretty done. The Steelers, I think, will fall out. The Ravens, I think, will eventually fall out after getting boat raced by the Bengals, which was interesting. The league is just weird this year. Like I said, I mean, look, the Panthers beat the Rams the other night. The Panthers are in the NFC, playoff hunt.
Right.
So it's just a weird year. And I hate to say, oh, well, this is so-and-so's year to get it done. If Josh Allen does not win a Super Bowl this year, I don't want to hear his name ever again.
I agree.
I just don't. This is his huge opportunity. Lamar, the Ravens might make the playoffs, but probably not. The Bengals are out. We're on the cusp of being out. The best team in the AFC is the Patriots with, Drake May. You're really worried about Drake May that much? I mean, I love me some Mike Variable, but you're going to be worried about Drake May that much to where you can't beat him? I mean, they beat the Bills.
Yeah, but, in Buffalo.
Yeah, so you got to do it if you're Josh Allen. If you don't do it this year, you're not him. It's just not possible.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Long story short, I think we're very close to being out. If we lose this week, stating the obvious here, we're definitely out.
Yeah.
But if they win, it doesn't look good, which is okay. And I think Chiefs fans are very upset that we may not make it. Listen, I've seen Tyler Thigpen play quarterback. I've seen Brody Coyle play quarterback. I've seen Damian Heward play quarterback. I've seen Tyler Palco play quarterback. Okay. Don't
forget
need
Brody Coyle.
Oh, I did. Well, there you go.
I
Brody
missed
Coyle
you
again.
saying him.
Yeah. Well, but I've seen it all. Okay, we've seen it all. We've seen Matt Castle play quarterback a couple times too. Okay, so it's going to be fine if the Chiefs miss the
Yeah.
playoffs for the first time in 10 years. And here's one thing I didn't realize: this will be the first time in 10 years the Chiefs have not been in the playoffs.
Yeah.
It's okay. We're going to be okay.
I agree. I agree with you. Well, I will say, as of today, no, I do not think the Chiefs will be in the playoffs. I do not think they will play January football. And that gets me to, obviously, yes, there's still a chance if they beat Houston on Sunday. If they beat Houston on Sunday, they kind of have that, okay, we got to hope for the Colts to lose. And then past that, that's kind of up in the air. Because if the Colts lose next week, which I don't know who they're playing exactly, they would fall to 8-5. The Chiefs would be at 7-6, so you'd still need the Colts to lose one more, and the Chiefs would obviously, they're going to have to win out no matter what. The Chiefs will have to win out to make the playoffs. At that point, really, it's just between LA, Indianapolis, and Buffalo. So I think Indianapolis is probably the team that you're rooting for, but it could definitely be, or rooting to lose, but it definitely could be kind of the same situation as the Bengals last year where, you need somebody to win to get in. And we'll see how that falls. You're not in control of your own destiny. So no, and I don't think this team is serious enough that they will be in the playoffs this year. That being said, I saw a tweet by the BBQ Chiefs account that the Chiefs missing the playoffs in the middle of Patrick Mahomes' prime warrants someone to be fired. How do you feel about that? And if you were going to fire somebody after the season, who would it be?
Dave Tobe. Oh, sorry, was that too fast?
That's a fair answer. I didn't see that one coming either. I think that's a very fair, valid answer after what we've seen the last few weeks.
Dave Tobe, and I mean, let's be honest, does Matt Nagy really do much? Probably Matt Nagy. I think Matt Nagy will probably use as a scapegoat if this doesn't work out.
Yeah,
Spagnuolo. A lot of people think he'll probably be a head coach next year. I don't think he wants to. I mean, we'll see. Either. But he's I think near the same age as Andy.
Yeah.
So I doubt.
And who's going to hire Steve Spagnuolo, especially after the we've seen the trend. The trend is youth in the NFL right now. Everybody wants that young head coach.
Well, unless you're the Raiders, but
yeah, or the Broncos. Anybody in the AFC West, I guess, or the Chargers. But
right.
Maybe the Dolphins is open. Obviously, we know the Giants is going to be open. Which Kafka is at an interim spot, which just kind of has made me sick because I think he's the guy that should have been promoted as OC when B&Me left in the first place. But I don't know. I just don't see anywhere where Spags would go be a head coach or would want to hire him. I don't know. Maybe Miami would, just after dealing with Mike McDaniel over the last few years, and it didn't work out. So what's the opposite of young? Let's go old and see if Spagnuolo can do something for us. I don't know, but I don't see it happening. But yeah, I mean, I'm right there with you. What do you think about Veach? I think that Veach could be a legit. Look, we revere Veach, and I definitely am a big Veach fan. But we also know pretty much to a T what Veach can do and what he cannot do. And one thing he cannot do is draft an edge rusher that the Chiefs desperately need at this moment.
Yeah, I think with Karlaftis, I think he bought himself some time.
Yeah.
And I think with Norman Lott, I think he was going to be really good, but unfortunately had an injury and has to miss out. So I know you like yourself some Norman Lott. I thought he looked great I think it was 2 games he played, but and I like Gelati. I think he has potential to be pretty good. But yeah, I agree with you that he can't draft an edge rusher, and his receiver draft outside of Rashee Rice, has not been great. Yeah, that's an interesting one. And I think a lot of it is just he's been here long enough to where maybe a new voice is warranted. I can't see Clark doing it.
Yeah, I can't
Um,
either. Especially he's the guy that found
but
Mahomes, right? He is
right, yeah,
credited as, you know, the Mahomes guy. He was the scout that went out and said, "Hey, we have to take a look at this guy." You end up drafting him. 7 AFC championships later, it is hard to fire the guy that you've promoted that went out and got the guy.
right. But I think the way you lose Brett is if someone offers them a pile of money to come manage their team, and that could be the case too. If the Chiefs don't make the playoffs, and someone calls Brett and says, "Hey, why don't you come manage the Dolphins or whoever?" and da da da, that's a possibility. So I think that would be one of the main ways you lose Brett Veach is if someone offers him a pile of cash to go somewhere else. Um, but fired, that's tough. I think he's done enough in his managed career to be fine. Um, my concern is that if we fire so and so, you know, does Andy retire shortly after? Because if Andy has a year or two left, and we get rid of Matt, and we get rid of Tobe or whoever, does that really set us up for success later down the road? If Andy says, "Oh, I'll see you, next year," or God forbid, at the end of this year,
Right.
so I think there's a lot of questions on who you should actually fire. I mean, Dave
Yeah.
Dove's at the top of my list. Matt Nagy and whoever the receiver coach is um, does not know how to coach a receiver. That's very obvious. Um, they can't get open to save their lives, and Tony likes to point that out all the time, and I think
Yeah.
that's good to point out because these cats cannot get open. You watch Worthy try to run a route, and yes, he's quick as all get out, but man, he can't break free and push off a release. Rasheed Rice is the only one that can do it.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, at some point, we kind of got to figure out what's the problem. Receiver coach, Dave Tobe, and probably Matt Nagy at some point.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I just thought it was an interesting one to talk about. Just for the simple fact that there are some names you can kind of throw around. I think Veach is, obviously not at the top of that list, but an interesting one to throw out there. I think, yeah, the Tobe one, that did catch me off guard because I was ragging on special teams earlier, but I guess thinking, Dave Tobe's been such a staple of the Andy Reid era. I mean, he's been special teams coach for as long as I can remember, really. And, I don't know, maybe the game has passed him by a little bit with the rule changes and things like that, and we'll see, who figures that out for real. But I kind of agree with you. I mean, I think it's hard to overreact, but at the same time, I think kind of the sentiment of what you've talked about the whole time as we've been talking about the Chiefs is a change of status quo, and I completely agree with that. I think that again, like the whole rant I went on of just that holier than thou mindset that I feel like I've been kind of talking about to everybody I talk to the Chiefs about, of just it really feels like the coaching staff feels like they can do no wrong, and it's like, what is this? We keep losing. Why? We're gonna go out there and do the same thing again next week because we're the Chiefs. That's what we do. We're the best. It's like, well, how long do you stay the best if
You
you
know,
keep coming up short?
you know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of Vince McMahon in the rough PG era, where it's basically fuck it, John Cena.
Yeah, yeah.
It's it just kind of seems that way. I think the Chiefs are in their fuck it, John Cena time. You
It'll
know,
work, damn it.
yeah, it'll work, pal. Not really, but you're still gonna make money. So
Yeah.
I don't
No, I totally agree with you. Okay, so we kind of touched on it already as we were talking about the Chiefs, but what in the hell is going on with the NFL this year, EDJ?
That's a good question. I don't know, but I don't like
Same.
it. It's very weird. Everyone is pretty much bad.
That's what
The
it
Eagles
feels
are
like.
bad. The Bills are bad. Chiefs are bad. Um, the Ravens are terrible. The Bengals are ass. Um, everyone that's worth shit is terrible. Um, the best teams in football right now are the Denver Broncos and New England Patriots. Feels like we're in 2015 all over again.
Right.
So it's. I guess it's for a casual fan. I'm sure it's very exciting.
Yeah.
For people who watch football more than Sundays and Mondays and Thursdays or whatever, it's very annoying. It's like, well, the teams that are supposed to be good are terrible. And even the bad teams seem to beat the really good teams. We talked about it for a half second. The Panthers beat the Rams today.
Yeah.
And
what was the great game?
It was a very good game. And you know what? I think the odds for the Rams winning that game were quite high, and I think Vegas lost a lot of money today.
Nice.
But it's just baffling. And I think this happens every once in a blue moon in the NFL where you just have a really weird year. You had all those battles out in the AFC West for so many years where teams won like 7 games and they make the playoffs. Like the Rams did a couple of times with Fisher. It's just a
Seahawks, the year of the Beastquake, and they took out the Saints.
Yeah. Yeah, it's one of those weird things where who knows what's going to happen. A team that has 7 losses could win the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
It's just one of those things. And I think if you're a Chiefs fan, you kind of have to realize that is the league is having a moment, so you're just going to kind of have to let it be.
And with the West getting as good as it has gotten, because you've got a 9-2 Denver team that's playing right now as we're recording this. And then you've also got an 8-4 Los Angeles Chargers team. But then you look at a Baltimore that, a few weeks ago, we probably would have both been like, hey, they're probably not going to make the playoffs this year. But the AFC North is so weak. The Steelers are down there at 6-6, right behind Baltimore. And then after that, you got the Bengals at, I think, 4-8 now? After beating Baltimore on, was that Thursday night on Thanksgiving night? Yeah, I agree with you. It's a weird year. That gets me to kind of thinking of seeing the other side of things and I think it's an interesting topic for us to kind of touch on just because we're on the other side of it. As both Chiefs fans, we're a little biased here, right? Is there a change into the guard happening? Is Drake May and Bo Nix taking over the AFC? Or we? Yeah, no. I did see an interesting graphic. Okay, I do agree at this moment in time. Right?
Yeah, I was gonna say I'll stop. I'll save you. I'll save you the spiel. No.
Well, I was just gonna say I saw a graphic the other day where they tried to put Nix, May, and Herbert together, and I said, even going to the next generation, we're still trying to get Herbert over. Like, I like Herbert too, but he's not that. It's okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, watching Bo Nix play gives me a headache. He's all right. He's not great. Drake May might be pretty good. I don't watch the Patriots. I mean, they're hard to watch down here, so he could be really good. Everyone says he's really good, and so far he seems to be fine. So, he could be the leader of the next generation, sure. Caleb Williams seems to have figured it out under Ben Johnson a little bit.
I'm all in. Bear down.
And again, the Bears. The Bears are another team that
the Bears
we talked about.
The Bears are the number 1 team in the NFC after today. Number 1.
Right. And I mean, talk about a hell of a hire getting Ben Johnson. They started off rough, and I don't think they've lost in 7 weeks or something like that. So, it's the Bears did it right. I don't know. If we get a Bears Patriots Super Bowl, I'm gonna have to call somebody. So, it's we could, and that's the scary part.
Yeah.
We could get a Chicago, So I don't know, but if we do, I'll enjoy it because watching these Super Bowls the past 3 years have been nothing but a heart attack. So, it'll be nice to take a year off and just enjoy it.
I also think for the Chiefs, I mean, they played a full season of playoff games compared to the rest of the league. They've played so many games in the last 7 years that I honestly at this point hope that they do get a break. I am almost rooting for the Chiefs to not make the playoffs this season. I mean, if they do, obviously I'm all in. I love this team, but it would be nice to actually maybe get to go to Cancun instead of joking about everybody else going to Cancun. So the last thing I have to ask you, really NFL related, is who are kind of your teams that you're feeling? You know, obviously the New England and Denver have kind of got it locked up. They're going to be in the playoffs, but outside of that, I mean, you've got an exciting race in the South with Jacksonville, Indianapolis, maybe Houston having an outside shot at getting in as a division winner again this year, and then really you got the rest. You got Buffalo. LA fighting for a playoff spot. I think Baltimore's kind of solidified to get a playoff spot just because of how terrible that division is. But between, you know, like Buffalo, Indianapolis, LA, Kansas City, Pittsburgh, Houston, who's kind of, at least in the AFC right now, who do you think, who do you feel confident in that's going to get a playoff spot?
Well, sidebar real quick, as we were talking about how Bo Nix gives me a headache. He throws one of the worst interceptions I've ever seen in my life. So there you go. Right to the linebacker. But anyway, who do I trust? I don't trust anybody. You know, it just kind of seems like nobody is really trustworthy. If you go through the old faithfuls, I guess if the Bills make it, maybe the Bills. Yeah. But I think Bills and trust is probably the last word you put again next to Buffalo. You never trust the Chargers. Take that to the bank. Yeah. I think trust is a bad word. Interesting. I guess here's the thing. I think Variable is the best coach in this situation.
Yeah.
Maybe Sean Payton, but I'm not crazy about Sean Payton, but he's probably the second best coach in the AFC right now outside of Variable in terms of team.
I think Sean Payton is the guy that always makes the mistakes in the big situations.
Yes. And Sean Payton's very into himself.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think if you're going to trust a coach, I think it'd probably be Mike Variable.
I would agree.
So hell, why not? We'll trust the Patriots. I'm sure they'll lose in the first round, but you know we'll trust the Patriots on this one. We'll trust Variable, and we'll see what happens. We'll go with that. We'll see what happens. NFC wise,
another just crazy crapshoot because you got the Lions hanging around at 7-5, the Panthers now 7-6, the Bucks are at the top of that division right now, but the Panthers could still win it. Then you got the NFC West that's like the opposite of what we were just talking about those years, where the Rams are 9-3, the Seahawks are 9-3, and the Niners are 9-4. Then you got the Cardinals at 3-9 down there, but the Packers 8-3-1. The Cowboys still have a little bit of life after beating the Chiefs on Thursday. The picture is just as weird in the NFC, it feels like.
Yeah, it kind of seems like the NFC has taken over the AFC competitiveness this year.
Yeah, I could see that, yeah.
It just kind of seems like every year the AFC is more competitive, but the NFC's taken over that this year, which is good. I think the Rams will be the most trustworthy with Sean McVay, with Matt Stafford, with Puka, with Devontae Adams. I mean, that's a Super Bowl team. You know, so I would say the Rams are probably the most trustworthy in the NFC. Sam Darnold, I like myself some Sam Darnold, but like you said, it's been a bad go the past couple of weeks.
Yeah.
We saw
also
him last
Sam
year in
Darnold
the Vikings. Yeah. You saw him last year in the Vikings playoff game. Kind of looked like the old Sam Darnold. So, yeah, you know, it's hard to trust anybody, but I'd say in the NFC, you got to trust the Rams, and the AFC will say the Patriots, but don't take that one to the bank. But I
could
would be more
see
confident.
A world where they both end up in the Super Bowl.
Yeah, you know, but in the most confident NFL team right now, just because of the coach and with the quarterback situation and the wide receiver duo, I would go with the Rams, and I think that is probably the safest bet in the NFL, in my opinion.
No, I completely agree with you, man. I do actually completely agree with you. I I'm big on the Bears. I'm excited to see where they go, just because in my Dynasty Fantasy League, I drafted Caleb Williams as a rookie. Interested to see where he goes off of that. And I just love what Ben Johnson did in Detroit and what he has done in Chicago. So I'm definitely, on that bandwagon hype train for the Bears. I was on the hype train last year and felt like an idiot after that didn't turn out too well. I mean, you had people talking about they could go to the Super Bowl with Caleb Williams, and I was one of those guys that was like, well, maybe, but obviously didn't work out. They needed a more competent, at least offensive-minded coach, as Eberflus went to Dallas, and he's really shaped up that Dallas defense the last few weeks. So, yeah, I don't know, man. It's such a weird year, and I think we're gonna have to get down to the playoffs because even like looking at the teams that are at the top and who would be in the playoffs today, like who the hell wins any of these games? Who beats who? Like none of this makes sense. None of these teams no one has wowed me and showed me, oh, this is a team to worry about. And not even in the stretch. I mean, tomorrow is December. Or I guess today, technically, putting us out on Monday, but it is December now, and I feel like we don't have a real good idea of how January is going to go. And I feel like that's not common necessarily every year. I feel like we got a pretty good feel on who the best teams are and who they aren't, because I could definitely see a New England or a Denver or a Chicago or even an LA lose in the first round of the playoffs. But I do think that LA, I agree with you on that just because I think they are the most tried and true, just the style that they play. They're ready for January. They've got 2 really good running backs. They've got a good veteran quarterback. They've got a couple of elite receivers are playing at an elite level right now, and that defense is nasty for LA. So I do think that I believe in them the most out of anybody. And that game last year against Philly, man, I mean, they're like that close from pulling it off against Philly in that divisional round game. So I think they played them really well. And, as we watch Philly fall apart, I think is what we're going to see the final few weeks of the season if I was predicting. But with that being said, I think that that pretty much rounds it out for the NFL, unless you got anything else. EDJ, we will move on to some more disappointing topics of the college football realm. The Missouri Tigers have finished the season 8-4, I believe, and it was a season. It was a Mizzou season. It was a very Mizzou season. We were right there on board. I mean, you can go back and listen to the pod and see how high me and EDJ were on this team going in, and they turned out like every other Mizzou team of the last decade. Wasn't quite put together the way it should have been, especially hanging close with Bama. The last time that we did a podcast was the preview for the Bama game, so we got all nothing but the mess to talk about with Mizzou, really. And the Arkansas game was not pretty. I was very frustrated with that Arkansas game early on, and I kind of thought the same thing of just this is an unserious team. It's like, and it's been weird this year, feeling like over the last maybe 4 weeks, it feels like, why does Sunday feel like Saturday? That's not been normal.
Yeah, it's a weird one to put your head around, because Ahmad Hardy was on track to win the Heisman.
Yeah.
And it just kind of stopped. It's like
still the leading rusher in the SEC. Still the leading rusher.
Yeah,
but,
he is.
Yeah.
But it's not what it was.
Yeah.
And giving Drake the 6-year extension is just kind of like, okay. So listen, he's a great recruiter, and he's done a lot of great recruiting for Mizzou that Mizzou has not had in a long time, if ever. So I'm not dogging him, but it's just kind of like, okay,
we've been here before.
We've been here before. This is his worst year in a couple of years, and this is a team that really should have done pretty well. But Bo did not turn out like we thought he would after the first couple of games.
Yeah.
Turned out he had the IQ of a rock. So, that was frustrating to watch him just kind of have no idea what he's doing, in an Alabama game. and just missed a wide open Marquise Johnson, or I think that's his name. His last name's Johnson, but wide open, and didn't even remotely see him, and just threw it to Kevin Coleman with 4 Alabama defenders all around him and lost the game. So it's very confusing when you sit there and talk about what happened to Mizzou. I don't know. It just kind of seems like the end of every year. I don't know.
Yeah.
And when they beat Ohio State, that was great. And they beat Iowa last year, and everyone was kind of like, oh, okay, there's 2 big wins against 2 Big Ten opponents. That's great. And, just kind of went back to, I don't know. So I feel like it's just kind of a waste of everyone's time. If you're going to, because Matt Zollers is a true freshman, and he was a second string. Yeah. And from what I saw in that Vanderbilt game, it's pretty damn good. He has a lot of potential. And a couple games after, he was fine. I just don't. I don't know. We'll see.
You think they should have kept going with Zollers instead of bringing Perdula back?
I do. I didn't understand the point of that. We're going to start this guy that won't be here next year.
Yeah, okay. I think that's what it comes down to. It's a senior. He transferred here.
Yeah, it's like, well, he's a graduate senior and only had 1 year anyway. Well, let's put him back in there. Well, what's the point? He nearly snapped his leg in half.
Well, what's another thing you got to think about too, though. Now that we are thoroughly entrenched in the NIL, how much money's Bo making? How much money did they pay him to come to Mizzou? How much? How much money is on the line to just say, hey, shut him down and let's go in a new direction? But from just a pure football side, I kind of agree with you. If Zollers is getting it done, let him get the reps. Like, let's build towards next year. Let's start, moving towards 2026 for the Missouri Tigers. But I don't know. I don't think that it was necessarily a bad decision to bring Bo back and let him play, especially if that's what he wanted to do. Bo is probably not going to be playing at the NFL level, so maybe we'll see him in the USFL or something like that. But yeah, I think Bo showed us who he was. I think we got hype off of it. It almost reminds me of Matt Castle with the Chiefs, where I think a lot of us were very hyped that Matt Castle was coming in to play with the Chiefs after a good season with Randy Moss as his number 1 receiver. And obviously Bo didn't even show anything at Penn State. He didn't show anything that showed us he was going to be a top flight quarterback. We knew he could run. That's about it. And that's about all he could do. Once the pressure was there, he played great against the cupcake teams. Central Arkansas, he had a great game. Looked great. Looked pretty good against Kansas. He had very good games at the beginning of the year. So there's 2 things I've kind of heard and thought of. And one, we'll just start with, because we'll talk more about Drink getting that extension. But what was the most disappointing loss of the season in your eyes?
Alabama and Vanderbilt. Considering,
I say Vanderbilt easily.
Yeah, I think they played better against Vanderbilt.
Yeah, I think so.
And I think they probably should have won that game.
They should have.
In the Alabama game, they should have won that one too. Yeah. I should say they should have. They could have very easily won that game. We'll put it that way.
They could, and I think the thing with Bama is Bama's Bama, right? I think we all kind of went in going like, okay, we know we have a chance, but it's Bama. The Vandy game is like, I get Pavia, he's been great. Vandy's had this good run, but it's Vandy. We got to figure out how to beat Vandy. Because if we can't beat Vandy, then we're just Mizzou. Is like kind of the thought process for me on that, and why I say that was the most disappointing game. But it just, like I said, Saturdays and Sundays feel too much alike. It feels like both of these teams, with the Chiefs and the Tigers, like, do you guys want to win? Or you guys just come out here to play and have a good time? Like, I don't understand. It's like the moments where it's like, you got to kick it into 5th gear and go is like a 3 and out. 3 and out. Defense holds them 3 and out because Mizzou's defense has been awesome. Josiah Trotter is going to be an NFL prospect. But anyways, yeah.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think it's just the teams that we've loved for so many years are some of the most frustrating teams in the world.
Yeah.
Yeah, and this goes back to Gary Pinkel, when with Chase Daniel and Blaine Gabbert and Matty Mock, it's all of those teams have potential to be national champion contenders, especially with Chase Daniel.
Oh yeah.
Chase Daniel, Jeremy Maclin, Chase Kaufman. I mean, good God Almighty.
I think there was only 2 teams that year that legitimately, one deserved to be in the national title game and were obviously head and shoulders above everyone else, and that was that Oklahoma team and the Florida team they lost to.
Which, yeah, I agree with you. I think Oklahoma, Florida, Mizzou, which everyone will say, Mizzou, yeah, I bet they were. No, Oklahoma, Florida, Mizzou were 3 of the best teams in the whole country that entire year.
Yeah.
Chase Daniel was one of the best quarterbacks. Probably should have won the Heisman, in my opinion. But whatever. Yeah, it's disappointing. Drink gets the extension. I understand it from a recruiting aspect. I think they're kind of treating him like Dennis Gates. Dennis Gates is a phenomenal recruiter. If you look at the basketball recruiting class for next year, it's like top 5, top 3. These guys can recruit, but does it translate?
Yeah.
Does it translate when it matters? And maybe a lot of these guys, and Mizzou had a top 20 class last year. They'll have, I think, the 23rd best at the end of this year. So, maybe a lot of it's going to translate later on. But am I stoked that they signed Eli Drinkwitz to 6 more years? No. But, is there something better out there? I guess we won't know now. It's too late. So
right. I think it brings stability at least, and I do. Yeah. I'm here for that with Mizzou right now, because I think Mizzou could be, and maybe what they want to angle to be is like a, and I might be wrong about this, but I feel like before Dabo Swinney, I don't feel like Clemson. I don't remember when we were really young, like Clemson being a legit football contender. Like they were just another team in the ACC, right? So I feel like Mizzou, maybe if they want to try to go that kind of route of like, hey, let's get this coach that's established. He's a really good recruiter. I think Drink coaches maybe scared sometimes a little bit to a point, and I do get why he did that this year, because obviously in those big moments, like Bo was not going to be the guy to be, getting you down the field. He wasn't the dude that was going to move you up and down the field with his arm. With his legs, maybe. And especially around that rushing attack. But, there was one game where I told Ray, where I was like, we might as well just be a triple option team, like the rest of the way. Because what was the point in even having dudes running deep post routes if we can't throw to them? And I think Mizzou is a quarterback away. I think that's another part of what makes this year so frustrating. If Mizzou had a top flight quarterback, they had like a top 5 to top 10 quarterback, they are probably going to get a playoff spot and possibly competing for a national title. Definitely competing for an SEC title, I think. I think they could beat that, or won the Bama game, beat Alabama. They would have beat Vanderbilt. Even the OU game was like the most Chiefs game ever. Come out on fire, go up, and then all of a sudden weird stuff just starts happening. Like everybody, like you said, forgets how to play football all of a sudden, and now we're like trying to play catch up. Mizzou, I think, starts to play catch up a little bit. Got to the point where they even could have, was it tied the game or won the game there at the end, and then threw that final interception. I was just like, oh my gosh, dude. Like it's frustrating from a fan standpoint of like they draw you in just to let you down again, and it was like a microcosm of what the whole season was for Mizzou in that Oklahoma game for me. So by that point, it didn't really matter. So I don't think the Oklahoma game was like as disappointing as it could have been if maybe you beat Vanderbilt. You lost to Alabama, but you beat Vanderbilt. And then you get to that Oklahoma game, and it's like, oh my gosh, it would have been a lot more disappointing. But I don't think it was as disappointing just because where you're at in the season. And I was going to say one more thing. The Auburn game. Let me tell you, That Auburn game may have been like the most frustrating win to ever watch. I was texting Jamal, one of our buddies that is an Auburn fan, and we sounded just alike. Like, who wants to lose this game more? Because he also was very down on Auburn all season this year. So I don't know, man. You got to regroup, and I think that you hope that the recruiting catches up. I think at the end of the day, they're a quarterback away, and I mean, in college, obviously, it's not like the NFL where your quarterback like kind of dictates how good you're going to be when it comes down to time. And we haven't seen enough of this playoff action to know. Maybe it goes that way. Maybe we start seeing elite quarterbacks take over. But it traditionally hasn't really been like that in college. Like, thinking about guys like John Parker Wilson that won a national title at Oklahoma, and I don't know if he even played a snap in the NFL. But Mizzou's got to get a quarterback. They got to find a quarterback that's going to come there that's legit. Bo was a good start, but you got to find someone with an arm.
Well, you gotta give someone a chance.
Yeah.
And I think Zollers had a chance, and he had a good chance. You had Sam Horn, who was a high prospect who's never played. Maybe that was for a reason, but
well, he blew his knee out week 1.
Right. Yeah. So I think if you give somebody a chance, and I think if you give Zollers a chance, I like Zollers.
Yeah.
If you give him a chance, I think Mizzou has an opportunity. Going to baseball really quick, because this is going to depress me if we keep talking about Mizzou and the Chiefs anymore.
Okay, wait, one more. Okay, then two more things with Mizzou, because I do have at least one more thing to ask. I can't remember what I was just thinking, but overall, just about drink and everything. What about the schedule? How do you feel about the schedule? Because I heard this on the radio this past week. Stop scheduling the cupcake games. And I think I kind of agree with that to a point, just because look at how Mizzou played in those cupcake games versus how they played against SEC teams. I mean, you were playing in the SEC. You're not playing in, it's not the Big 12 anymore. It's not where you got at least like 3 or 4 opponents that are going to be less than that that you can kind of get by, right? You're not playing the mid-2000s Colorado Buffalo or the, I'm trying to think of some other teams that really weren't. Kansas, Jayhawks. I mean, they throw them on the schedule, obviously rivalry, but, the Central Arkansas is the, what's the other team that they signed the deal with? The Minutemen. UMass.
Mm-hmm.
UMass, you've played each of the last 2 years. I mean, I don't know. What are your thoughts on that, on the cupcake games?
I mean, I kind of agree with you. I mean, if you're not good enough to do it, well, I shouldn't say that. There are, the big time teams that play cupcake games and end up doing fine. But maybe play better cupcake teams. I don't know.
I mean, I'm with you on that. And if you're going to play one like Central Arkansas, start it off week 1,
mm-hmm. Play
Central Arkansas, and then play, some opponents that are a little bit more up to your stature. And I mean, Texas might get a playoff spot off of playing Ohio State. I mean, they got that loss on their record, but they also played the number 1 team in the country. Well, I think Texas was number 1 at the time, actually, but
they were. But I think Arch has looked a lot better.
Yes, he has. He looked really good Friday night.
And so many people are like, "Oh, well, he sucks." So I was like, "Well, he doesn't now."
Right.
So, and it was going to take him some time. He's never played at college level before, so. Yeah. And a guy with so much hype, that's going to cause some issue. You got the name Manning on your jersey, so it's it's going to cause a little hype issue. Yeah.
Last question before we transition to baseball: is Arch Manning on the board in April?
No, I think he stays one more year.
I agree.
I think he finishes it out. I think he stays true to the Manning name because both Peyton and Eli. Well, Peyton stayed. Did Eli stay? I think he did.
I believe so. He was Ole Miss.
So
I believe he stayed.
I think they both stay. Or I think Arch stays. I think it's just how the Mannings do things, and I think it's the right way to do things if you're a college quarterback. So stay another year, learn the game more. You're obviously getting better. So just keep it that way.
No, I totally agree. Moving on to baseball. Let's talk about other. Well, at least we got one team that's not as disappointing over here with the Royals. Because I don't know. I don't know about the Cardinals. Because for the Royals thus far, the only really thing of note, unless you're the expert over here, so I'll defer to you. But the only thing really of note, they traded Logan Martin, right-handed pitcher, for Mason Black of the San Francisco Giants. And Mason Black last season had a 6.75 ERA at the major league level in just 4 innings pitched. So that looks a lot better looking at that, actually. In Sacramento, AAA, had a 5.81 ERA in 30 games. That's 119 innings.
Well, I'm going to stop you right there. I don't think it's going to get any better.
That's fair.
Yeah, I don't know. They definitely need a different second baseman. I think they had some problems, with India's health and just inconsistencies with India and Massey and trying to figure it out. And, it's and Adam, and having Frazier and who honestly I think should stay with the team and play second base. Frazier had a hell of a year. He was kind of the main forces to the Royals kind of turning it back on late in the year with Frazier and Perez and all that. And, Perez getting a 2-year deal done to stay with the Royals a couple more seasons a couple weeks ago. So, again, we've talked about this a million times. The Royals have the pieces in place.
Yeah.
Can they get the job done? One would hope. But again, that rotation injury and the key part of the season just kind of pretty much put that to bed. When you lose 3 starters that are all very significant, Rengis, Bubic, and Lugo, you're probably not going very far.
I mean, it was about impossible to pull out of that, I think.
It was pretty much an impossible mountain to climb with the 3 guys that you lean on in your rotation. And Noah Cameron did phenomenal. That's not a slight on Noah Cameron, but and they had a couple of trade guys that did really well. Barja did really well. There's somebody else. I'm blanking on the name at the moment, but and Walker did fine too. And Walker had a pretty good year. So, but again, you lose your 3 best pitchers. You're probably not going to make the playoffs. So it was what it was, and their offense was still struggling. So, if the Royals stay healthy, and that's an if. If the Royals stay healthy, and if they can find a consistent offense enough, I think they're dangerous. They're extremely dangerous. And we've seen it throughout the year. But consistency and health is the Royals' biggest issue.
Yeah, I agree with you. Looking deeper into this trade, actually, I don't think it's a bad deal. Really, they just moved up in a sense because you've got a Logan Martin, who was the trade for Mason Black, was a 12th round pick from the 2023 draft by the Royals. Hasn't played, looks like, higher than high A ball yet. He's 23 years old, or 24, excuse me. Mason Black is 25. He'll be 26 for next year's season. Drafted in the 3rd round of the 2021 MLB amateur draft by the Giants. So essentially, you're just moving up on a guy that, his timeline. Obviously, he's going to be on the big league roster next year. Maybe a guy that floats between Omaha and Kansas City versus a guy that probably wouldn't see any playing time next year at the big league level at all. So I don't think it's a bad deal. They're trying to shore up that starting rotation, I think, right there is mainly what the thought process probably was behind that, of having somebody that maybe at least kind of ready to go. Maybe he doesn't light it up for you, but he could be that spot starter to come in when you have a guy or two down. So I do get the thought process on that. Anybody on the Royals so far that you have? I'm looking at a few. MJ Melendez elected free agency. Taylor Clark elected free agency. Looks like about it. I don't know any transactions that you have. Randall Grichuk also has declared for free agency. I think that's the last thing on the list. Mike Yastrzemski, Adam Frazier, you touched on him. Michael Lorenzen, also all free agents currently.
Frazier and Yastrzemski, I'd like to see one more year out of. Grichuk was a good player, but we ended up not using him as much because I think Yastrzemski ended up shining a little bit more. MJ Melendez, I think everybody will wish him the best. Taylor Clark has had his struggles. So, it's nobody that's going to really hurt you. Michael Lorenzen really kind of struggled late in the year. So it's nobody that's going to kill you. And I think the Royals have a chance to load. So again, the Royals, again, are young. They're not super expensive. So they have a chance to go out and get some people. So I'm excited to see what happens.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that it'll be really interesting to see what the rest of the offseason brings for the Royals. I think they're in a good position right now to, I think their mindset is just reload for 2026 and let's go out there and see what happens. Obviously, I think there's more of a vision to it than there was maybe even this past year. You kind of surprised everybody in 2024 by making the playoffs. Gave the Yankees a run for their money. And then now you get into 2025, miss the playoffs, but still stay above 500. I think that the biggest thing for the Royals, or my biggest kind of thing with the Royals the last 2 years, has been you got to start beating teams that are good. That record against teams that are above 500 has been subpar the last 2 years. You got to figure out how to get on the right side of that. And, the world is their oyster, I think, at that point. I think that the Royals definitely have a very good chance to be a very, very good team. Obviously, we're going to get to see, we talked about him a ton this summer. And I'm blanking on the name, the first baseman.
Jack Caglione.
Thank you. Yes,
yeah,
Jack Caglione.
Jack Caglione, Carter Jansen.
Yeah. And, you got Bobby Witt, who's a superstar.
Carter Jansen was phenomenal.
Yes.
Vinny Pasquantino, who really turned his power on late in the year. And Michael Garcia, who had a phenomenal year. So there's a lot of hope. Just that outfield, needs some help. But outside of that, the Royals are solid. If they could just get maybe one additional piece in the outfield, I think they're golden.
So, what I would propose to you is how do you feel about this? Because I've seen some rumors float around that the Royals could be interested in, and this is a nice segue to our Royals and Cardinals coverage, that the Royals would be interested in Brendan Donovan, who fits, one, the outfield you just mentioned, because Donnie can play the outfield, but he can also play, he can play any position on the field, but also a solid second baseman that could step in when needed. Just very good utility player and a very solid bat. At one point last season, we talked about Donovan leading the National League in average and was having a great year. Slowed down. I think he got injured midway through the season. But how would you feel about Brendan Donovan?
Well, he's relatively young, isn't he?
I think he's like young, early 30s.
Okay. Yeah, if you have a good outfielder, we'll take him. But apparently that hasn't been. Apparently, selling hasn't been the Cardinals' problem.
28.
I was gonna say, I think he's a little younger than that.
Yeah.
So he's a good age, and the Royals need an outfielder. So send him over. Make a call. Let's make it happen. I know. No. I can't say his name right now. Nolan Arenado. There we go.
Yeah.
Arenado, thank you. Was basically, like you said, another prospect. I don't think the Royals will go after him. I think they feel like they're set at second base outside of, if they get Frazier back, then they're definitely set, they feel like. So
And Michael's at third,
Michael's at third,
right?
but he can play second if he needs to.
Okay.
Um, so yeah, if we get Brendan Donovan, that would be great. So yeah, I'm with you on that. Um, keep it cheap. If the Royals like to keep it cheap, and that's fine. If you can get value from a cheaper deal, that's great. Um, don't go above your means and try to make it work. And the Royals have done it before, and I think they can do it again.
Yeah, I think Donovan would be a great fit for the Royals and just who they are as a ball club right now. The only thing that I saw that I think would deter the Royals big time is the Cardinals said. I'm assuming Chaim Bloom, who's taken over for Mozeliak this year, said that they want to be blown away by the offer. Donovan has mentioned Houston, L.A., and New York, the Yankees, that is. But that's the word on the street is the Cardinals want to be blown away, and that's the
Man,
only way
what
they'll
is with you
trade
and your
Donovan.
city and being blown away by things? Have
I
you
don't know,
been to
but
St.
I would
Louis?
like
I
to
mean,
say it's not my city. I just like the team.
well, I mean, have we been to St. Louis? Let's be real, nothing blows you away. But,
Agreed. Yes,
it, it,
agreed.
it's here or there.
It is a second-rate
Um,
Missouri city. Is what St. Louis is.
um, yeah, I don't know.
But
Let's see. Go ahead.
now, the only thing I was gonna say is, yeah, I don't think that it's in the best interest for the Cardinals to trade Brendan Donovan. I mean, if they're trying to blow everything up, I mean, maybe. I think Nolan Arenado is going to be a foregone conclusion at some point. Sonny Gray's already gone, and they are giving $20 million to the Red Sox. So I don't know. Maybe they don't. Maybe that's what they mean by blown away. Here's $20 million and give us a couple prospects and take one of our best players. Like I don't. I don't understand what the point of moving Sonny Gray was if you were going to move half of his contract to the Red Sox for a couple of guys. I mean, who? Let me see. Let me get both of them one more time. Brandon Clark, who has played high A ball at best last year. Brandon Clark at high A ball had a 5.08 ERA. At low A ball had a 0.93 ERA, which is cool, but 11 starts at high A ball with a 5 ERA and finishing going down. Not great to trade your ace for that. Richard Fitz, who I believe was a Cardinal before that I read. 6th-round pick by the Yankees in 2021. He's a 25-year-old right-hander who also has not. He had a good year in 2024 in just 4 games. He pitched 20 innings. Gave up what's a 174 ERA last year in 45 innings. Fitz gave up a 5 right on the nose ERA. So I don't know. I mean, I don't know what the hell the Cardinals are doing. I mean, they'll be lucky to get something out of Arenado at this point. They're not going to get what they wanted initially. It's been downhill. I don't know. This whole franchise is just in the gutter at the moment. From my personal standpoint, Helsley's gone. He's already signed with the Orioles. He's not coming back. Not like they would give him the money. I mean, they fought Helsley like 2 years ago over I think it was like $60,000 they fought him in court over. Yeah, great way to treat your all-star pitcher. And then kick his ass out the door to New York. Go, hey, try to win a championship with somebody else because we're not doing it here. Yeah, so it's good that one side of the state is solid in baseball.
Yeah. Oh darn! I feel so bad for you.
We only have 11 championships. It's all right.
Yeah. What is that? 1912. Whatever. I think my grandpa played left field for you guys at some point. You know, I as much as I enjoy bashing the Cardinals, my unit is gonna die. So I will try to think of a strong point to end on before I fade to black here. At the end of the day, I think we were going to talk MMA, but we've obviously you're starting to fire things up. We can save that for another show too, unless there's a pressing issue you want to talk about MMA. Wait, real quick. Never mind. I found a good point in on Jake Paul, Anthony Joshua. Who you got and why?
Anthony Joshua, because he's a professional boxer. What about you?
Well, I think Anthony Joshua is going to get charged with murder in this one. I think it's. Well,
We'll put this together. It's a crime.
Apparently, Jake Paul's team. I'll give him a handshake for having the balls to do it. But
yeah,
if you want to get your head knocked off, go ahead. But I think I'm going to fade to black here. But buddy, it's always fun. I enjoy you. We've been pals for far too long. We're now super old, which feels weird to say, but it's always fun. And now just firing everything back up and getting back to Papa Show content and all that. We'll enjoy more fun down the road, and hopefully have a Chiefs turnaround that we can all cheer about. But if not, I'm a huge Patriots fan.
Yeah. Got it. Yeah, man.
So good to see you, buddy. And we'll talk soon.
I appreciate you, man. You take care.